I've decided to skip today's Loud House vs. Cross-Agantes project in favor of doing an episode review of Sandcastles, considering that there isn't a Cross-Agantes episode that is similar to Sandcastles. Now, last year, I did make my review of Sandcastles, but unfortunately, it ended up becoming one of the videos that I ended up deleting before it came out in the public. It's mainly the fact that I found this episode difficult to understand, considering that it's part of Season 4. Well, it has a huge dip in quality and a lot of bad episodes. And for me personally, whenever I think about this episode back then, I can instantly say for a fact that I was looking into this episode a lot more when it comes to the negative aspects. But since the year has passed and Summer Palooza 4 Beach Paradise has beaches involved, let's talk about Sandcastles, since it qualifies as a beach episode. Lucy's class are about to go on the beach in order to enjoy themselves in the outdoors by the ocean, which Lucy in the Morticians Club thinks otherwise. And I need to point this out, I didn't have any plans on having an episode involving the Morticians Club facing off an episode involving the Cross-Agantes, because to be perfectly honest, there isn't any. And for me personally, with this being one of the major changes as the series progressed, it's a lot more difficult to get into the development of the Morticians Club, knowing full well how they were executed in a grave mistake. And believe me when I say this, I know I'm not gonna be able to get into that episode anytime soon, but when it comes to a future project similar to the Lincoln Lounge video that I made last year, it will be worth the wait even if it may take forever, but at the same time, I always put projects on hold. The thing is, the motivations of the Morticians Club in this episode is that they cannot stand the beach. Otherwise, they're not who they are when it comes to goths. Like, I understand that the Morticians Club have more to be other than being goths, but considering the fact that they're mostly into death, which is established in the grave mistake, which for me personally just sums up a lot onto why people can't take Lucy and the Morticians Club seriously. Yeah, you can totally understand onto why I scrapped my original review before I made it public. But at this point, I really need to stop talking about the negatives and being mostly focusing on Lucy herself. While she's mostly part of preventing her and the Morticians Club to go on the beach, even after her portrayal in A Grave Mistake, I'm starting to convinced that she isn't getting much credit as she was in the earlier seasons of The Loud House. Like, it's supposed to be a joke that people can't remember Lucy completely since that she's always in the shadows, but at the same time when it comes to her centered episodes, they're really good for what they are, and I'm starting to convince that in the newer episodes, they're trying to give her more than just being mostly a goth girl. Like, I understand that there are opportunities when it comes to her character, especially during potential sequels, mainly from Back in Black, but whenever I think about this episode, after a year after deleting my original review before publishing it, it really shows that she really is alone for the reasons that make her a lot more complex compared to the other Loud siblings. I think that one of the reasons onto why people didn't enjoy this episode as much is the fact that Lucy has been on the beach before, but with her family, which is something that people do not realize when it comes to Lucy's relatives, and when it comes to her friends, when it comes to the Morticians Club, it really shows that they're really trying everything in order to make the Morticians Club mainly the biggest shadow group of the entire show. Granted, there are a lot more shallow people and groups in the show that I've yet to discuss, but considering of how much that this show is trying a lot more to show us the point of view of Lucy, all the while just understanding that this is mainly her own journey in life compared to other characters like Lincoln. This episode was probably done correctly, but out on the wrong time when episodes like A Grave Mistake, Came to the Con, and House Flip came out, because believe me, people will remember those episodes and think about the negative aspects from those episodes into this episode. I'm being really honest with you that knowing forward that A Grave Mistake is basically the episode where people found the end of Lucy, mainly in the fact that it just damages her character, I can tell that they were not kind towards this episode. Believe me when I say this, whenever I think about Season 4, aside from the bad episodes, it's always gonna be involving negativity whenever I see the people in the Loud House fandom instantly just hating on the episodes because of the bad episodes. And in all honesty, I was on that boat whenever I think about the bad episodes, but at times when I think about these episodes, even though they may be questionable, I'm starting to convince that they are just probably not aged well when it comes to the fandom, and thinking about them right now, they're not as bad as what people have make it out to be. I understand that not every single character will win everyone else's approval, but whenever I think about Sandcastles now instead of last year, it's really harmless. Like, it's not great, but it's harmless, and it's not as bad as the other bad episodes. I'm starting to convince that the people who looked into this show a lot more was expecting a lot more from the characters. Like, granted, some people may be burned out after the third season before they watch any of the episodes, but the more I look at this episode, and the more on the fact that the episodes are slightly better than the newer episodes of the Fairly Odd Parents, mainly after Season 5, it really shows that the people behind the show, even after Chris Savino got fired, they still do a good job on making a few good episodes. Now, I can't deny that in the post-movie era of SpongeBob, it doesn't have good episodes, because it does have good episodes. It's just that the bad episodes were way too infamous and too difficult for me to enjoy the positives. And whenever I look at the Fairly Odd Parents episodes, I understand that they may be good in their own way, but when it comes to the characters, mainly Timmy's parents, it hasn't aged well, and I can instantly tell that people would say that Timmy has went through a lot of pain compared to Lincoln. But when it comes to the Loud House, I'm starting to convince that there are diamonds in the rough when it comes to other bad episodes, but whenever I think about it, it really feels like that people just wanted more from this show rather than just a few good episodes. And with this episode, they didn't see it as a good episode because they couldn't be able to take the episode seriously after watching the other bad episodes. And in my original take of this episode from last year, I only looked into this episode blindly and just being mostly focused on the story. And while I should have done that for this review, keep in mind the idea of Lucy going on the beach is somewhat odd to think about it, considering that she was with her family while they were on the beach at one point. But considering that people are just mostly focusing on the other episodes rather than this, then it really shows that talking about this episode and nothing more isn't really a good idea that I did last year. If I'm gonna be honest, whenever I look at this episode involving Lucy enjoying her time on the beach, I can instantly say that it's supposed to be a great moment of having Lucy enjoying herself in the outdoors, but at the same time, it's difficult to think about the plot while people are trying way too hard to think about other things other than the episode itself. I can understand that people are just trying to look into the characters closely, but let me tell you, it's really becoming exhausting when these episodes, when are harmless, aren't even one of the worst episodes of the season. And for me personally, just seeing Lucy enjoying herself and just being into the beach activities, people are ignoring the fact that Lucy is mostly shy. And I'm being serious. They're ignoring the fact that she is mostly shy to be around other people that aren't goths. So, in all honesty, I'm starting to convince that this episode has been overshadowed by not only the other episode's problems, but the fact that people are just not looking into this episode and just treating it poorly. And for me personally, 3 years ago, it's really depressing that, due to the bad episodes, this episode ended up getting overshadowed. And while it may be the case for other shows like SpongeBob and the Fairly OddParents, keep in mind, I can totally understand why people can't enjoy every single episode, but at the same time, it's important to note that when you look into these episodes closely, there was a lot more compared to what the other episodes did. And with this episode being a good episode over the bad episodes, this episode deserves a little bit of respect. Not a lot, but a little bit. And even though that I didn't talk about the Morticians Club a lot in this episode, keep in mind, it's mainly the fact of how they'll execute it as goths similar to Lucy. And in all honesty, if I'm ever going to talk about an episode centering around them, it has to be from Across the Galaxy's episode that has a similar plot to this. Which, for me personally, it's gonna be difficult to find knowing full well that I'm running out of episode ideas involving the two episodes comparing against each other. Remember, there are multiple ideas, but at the same time, the Morticians Club or Lucy being involved are really low on my list. As much as I try to get into Lucy's character and find more information involving the Morticians Club, keep in mind, it isn't always a win-win for everyone in this show in order to make a video out of. I'm just pointing that out right now. Bottom line is that this episode itself, I don't hate it, and I don't consider it one of the greatest episodes, but it's good in its own way. Even if I rarely do Loud Tower solo episode reviews, keep in mind, it's mainly of how the episode just feels to me on the fact that it's supposed to be a solo episode review rather than comparing it to a Across the Galaxy's episode review, because I still have more ideas, but at the same time, not every single idea is a winner. Just keep that in mind. I'm giving Sandcastles a 7 out of 10.